Hey everyone, it's Adam Tracy, and I get a lot of questions about marketing for crypto funds, right? And the rules, obviously, for marketing a crypto hedge fund versus like a traditional hedge fund are the exact same, but in my experience, the audiences are quite different, right? What I wanted to kind of focus on was the digital marketing aspect for crypto funds and what are like best practices and or mandatory requirements that you need to follow to legally market a crypto fund, right? And everything starts with the anti-fraud provisions, right? And that can basically be stated as don't lie, right? There was a recent enforcement action like a week ago where they were promising, the fund was promising returns of 2,700% a month or something insane. Don't lie, right? And I'm not even saying they couldn't, but taper your enthusiasm, right? Like, let's say that. Even if that's what you can return, right? Don't say it. Make it seem somewhat reasonable, and then you make everybody happy when you surprise them with a bigger return. Number one threshold is just don't lie. Anti-fraud provisions. Two, and you can kind of get specific in terms of the manner of digital marketing, you have influencer marketing, right? Which has become a bigger thing. And you saw like Kim Kardashian and some other quasi whatever they are get dinged by the SEC for promoting different crypto projects or ICOs, which maybe they didn't know they were securities offering. It doesn't matter. But the big thing with influencer marketing is disclosure, right? If you are paying somebody to provide any kind, like a direct sort of testimonial or like advertisement or hey, go check this out even, and that individual's been compensated in that social media post, blog, whatever it is, that person has to, and it can be like the fine print, but that person has to say, I've been compensated X amount by the company selling the token, right? Or the fund interest, as it were. And that comes from the penny stock days where you have all sorts of paid promoters and they wouldn't say that and then people would believe them but realize they were just getting paid and like the company was shit and so on and so forth. That's a big thing. And it's not only a big thing for the company because they'll get dinged, but it's also a big thing for the actual influencer in terms of their liability. Next, you have like pay-per-click, right? And pay-per-click can be like really effective in my experience for crypto funds because again, the audience is a lot different. They're looking in different places. Whereas like traditional funds, it's more like through institutions, a high net worth and referrals and word of mouth tends to work, but it's a different audience altogether, right? Just a different type of investor. For pay-per-click, the SEC actually says it's fine, but the pay-per-click advertisement has to contain risk disclosures. Now, like if you think about Google AdWords, like you couldn't fit it, but it basically requires you to create landing pages, right? Someone Google's crypto hedge fund, your Google ads pop up, they click on it, then you need to drive them to some sort of funnel or landing page. And on that page, even if it's a link, you have to have requisite disclosure, like risk disclosures, right? Just, and you can pull them from your offering memorandum. There's nothing terribly crazy about that. And then attribution. Attribution is a huge thing in pay-per-click. And also in the third element of digital marketing, which is social media marketing. Parties that are selling or purporting to draw attention or promote this offering must be who they say they are. And they must reference what entity is actually selling the security, right? There's no confusion as far as who the prospective investor is talking to or who the prospective investor ultimately invests in. It's like you can't bait and switch them. You see that a lot, like especially like in the penny stock world where it's almost like you see the ad, you go to that one page and it's like for something completely different. Well, the verbiage of the ad itself has to be very distinct in term and disclose who's selling what, right? Exactly. And then the third element, which I don't know how important it is, but like testimonials or like video or like any sort of element of media that's being used in connection with the sales. If you think of pay-per-click or tweeting out YouTube videos, and this is big, especially like in the airdrop, or like if you're using affiliate marketing, right, which I've talked about before, you have to control that message, right? And with affiliate marketing, which I did a whole video on, it gets really difficult because it's like so far flung and you don't know who's doing what. But the materials that you create, the content that you create, and you could use stock persons, and it doesn't matter, right? Like you can just buy the video, you can go fire, it doesn't matter. But those individuals have to properly attribute who they are, right? I'm a representative of XYZ fund. You cannot mislead an individual, especially as it relates to like testimonials. They'd have to be actual investors, or like they'd have to be actual people with knowledge and commitment to your fund, like an insider, something like that. You can't deliberately confuse people or attempt to confuse people by saying somebody said something when they didn't, or otherwise is not acting in the capacity that they're purporting to act in, whether it's like through video, like a social media, like a tweet, anything like that, right? So attribution is very important. That's where a lot of funds actually get tripped up and they don't realize it because they sort of buy the content, and these content providers, like through no really negligence of their own, just not well versed in securities, will do what they're instructed to do, but in turn violate marketing laws as it relates to funds. Those are some like general best practices, along with a few pronouncements which admittedly were designed and promulgated by the SEC for the purposes of pre-crypto, right? It was just for general securities offerings or general hedge fund offerings, but and especially 506C in the United States, which is like your general solicitation offering, that's what you have to really go by. Got to go by that, because they're picking these funds off one by one and saying, well, you didn't do this, you didn't do that. And a lot of it's harmless, but they're just not controlling the message, right? Like the fund isn't doing a good job. Like, they've got these big marketing budgets, and you have to, because I think that's really how you reach the right investors who want to invest in crypto hedge funds, but they don't own the content. They're not monitoring the content. They're not like controlling the message, and it takes a lot of effort and time to do it, but you have to do it, right? So follow those tenets, you'll be okay, and then you have to like be hyper vigilant to make sure you don't go sideways. So have any questions regarding crypto fund marketing, hit me up, adamtracy.io, and I'll talk to you next time. Cheers.